is Naomi Bennett with Learn Astrology Now, and we're talking about this week of March the 27th, 2011. It's another very dramatic week, and we can expect very dramatic events. And we have a continuation of the crisis in Japan with the nuclear power plant. They just announced this Monday on the 28th that radioactive water is leaking into the groundwater in the area. So it is continuing on to be a crisis. Don't expect that to change until after April the 11th. So this is a period of time with warlike activities, lots of military action. We see that the war is continuing in Libya, and that the U.S. is still involved, even though they're letting the NATO forces take control, but it is still a very dynamic period of time. It's also noted for explosions and death by gunshot activities, and they announced today that in Yemen that some rebels took over an explosive plant and there was a big explosion there. So that is in accord with those kind of activities. So I consider this to be a crisis or peak period of energy for this period of time. It's best for most people to think twice before they take action, and to watch your driving, because basically you're in a great big car weapon and you can make mistakes because you're distracted with the amount of intensity that's going on in your own life or around you, and so you do unconscious acts. So think twice and don't be the first one out of the intersection. So today on Monday, the 28th, we have Sun square Pluto, which is exact, and Jupiter in opposition to Saturn, and that Mars square Uranus conjunction is 4 degrees applying. So consider the entire week to be incredibly intense. This is the chart of Omar Gaddafi, born in 1942. We don't have a time of day for him, just the birth date. But notice over on the right-hand side the huge cluster of planets that are in Gemini. In fact, I would say he has too much Gemini. He's got Uranus, Saturn, Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter, which means he's probably quite brilliant, but scattered. You can say that people with that much Gemini are jacks of all trades, but masters of none. And he definitely has a scattered personality and is noted for being erratic. But then look at the top of the chart. The outer wheel is the date of which the UN, the Allied assault, started on Gaddafi, which was on March 19th, near close to 10 p.m. at Tripoli. And we see the Sun is conjunct Uranus, and it's squaring the lunar nodes. And more than likely, if you look below on the inner wheel, that Gaddafi's moon is involved with that, along with Neptune. And I'm projecting that this week could be a culminating event for Libya because of those aspects. It brings a crisis mode, a peak for hostilities and violent behavior throughout of all of the Arab countries. I think after this month of April that usually the protests that are going on in other countries like Bahrain and Yemen are likely to be reduced, but this should be a very violent week. This should be the apex of this activity because of the clusters of planets that are in Aries. So we will go on to the Aries chart now and look at that because that's the one that's being talked about most about this week. But do pay attention to Libya. This is the chart for this week of March the 27th, but I picked the day of April 2nd to show on this display because it's so powerful and strong. Notice at the very top that we have the planets Mercury, Jupiter, Sun, Moon, Uranus, and Mars, all in Aries. Aries is the sign of military action, of violence, of related to nuclear explosions, and also mass violence or organized and pre-thought out mass violence. So it's a highly aggressive, it's pioneering, and it's definitely a sign of rebellion. But it's magnified by the fact that it's squared by Pluto on the right and the lunar nodes. And then if you look at the very bottom of the chart, Saturn, those 4 points are called a grand square, and it is all in the cardinal signs. So it is definitely intense and definitely will create action or events in the world. So this is a time for most people not to take action and not to overreact, but to wait for the intensity to leave, and then you'll find many times that the problems will resolve themselves. In the meantime, though, and more likely in world events, is we'll see an increase of action. We're likely to see a lot more protests and violence in the Arab world. And don't be surprised in your local news if you see more death by gunshot or explosions, surprise events. And then, of course, for us individually, is to watch your driving, because that is a lethal weapon, particularly when we're so involved with our own emotions in our lives that we don't think about our driving. We go on automatic behavior. So be careful with that, and live out the week. And remember that when there's very intense actions, it's better not to act than to react to it. With this, I wish you the very best. Naomi Bennett with Learn Astrology Now.